They threw my daughter away like garbage. Left her on a park bench with my granddaughter and 3 suitcases. Her father-in-law fired her. Her husband kicked her out. They said our bloodline wasn't good enough for their empire. I told her to get in the car. They had no idea that empire was mine, and I was about to take it back. Welcome to today's story, everyone. Before we begin, please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment telling us where you're tuning in from. Quick reminder, this narrative contains dramatized elements for storytelling and educational value. While names and specific details may be fictional, the core lessons about recognizing abuse are absolutely real. The late afternoon sun bled gold across Biscayne Bay when I saw them. My daughter, my granddaughter, 3 suitcases, a park bench. "Pull over," I told my head of security. He didn't ask why. The black sedan slid to the curb and I was out before the engine stopped. My daughter sat with her shoulders curved inward like she was trying to disappear. My granddaughter, 4 years old, in a pink sundress, pressed against her mother's side, one small hand clutching a stuffed rabbit. The kind of toy you grab when someone rushes you out the door, when there's no time to think. My heels clicked on the concrete path. My daughter looked up. Her eyes were swollen, red-rimmed. She'd been crying for hours. "Mom," she whispered. I didn't run. I didn't rush. I walked to that bench the way I've walked into every boardroom for the past 25 years, steady, deliberate, in control. But inside, something was cracking. "What happened?" My voice was calm, too calm. Her breath hitched. "My father-in-law fired me this morning. Said there were discrepancies in my reports, things I never wrote." Her hands shook. "My husband came home 2 hours ago. He said he wanted me gone. He said..." Her voice broke. "He said our bloodline wasn't worthy of his family name." The words landed like a slap. My granddaughter looked up at me with those wide brown eyes. "Grandma, when are we going home?" My daughter couldn't answer. She just pulled the little girl closer and stared at the ground. I crouched down, smoothed a curl behind my granddaughter's ear. "Soon, sweetheart, real soon." Then I stood, looked at my daughter. "Get in the car." "Mom, I don't..." "Get in the car." I kept my voice gentle but firm. My security guard already had the trunk open. He loaded the suitcases without a word, then held the back door as they climbed in. My granddaughter clutched her rabbit. My daughter stared out the window like she wasn't sure where she was anymore. I slid into the passenger seat. "Home." He nodded. He knew the address. My house in Coconut Grove, the place I'd built from nothing after my daughter's father walked out on us 28 years ago. The place no one could take from me. The drive took 17 minutes. My daughter didn't speak. My granddaughter fell asleep against her mother's shoulder, exhausted from crying. When we pulled up to the gate, I turned back. "You're safe now." My daughter nodded, but her eyes said she didn't believe me. Inside, I showed them to the guest suite on the 2nd floor. My daughter ran a bath. My granddaughter was already asleep before her head hit the pillow, still holding that rabbit. I waited until the bathroom door closed, until I heard the water running. Then I walked downstairs to my office and made a call. He answered on the first ring. "I need a full audit of that cargo company," I said. "Every contract, every transaction. Every piece of paper my son-in-law's father has touched in the past 4 years." "Understood. When do you need it?" 48 hours. There was a pause. Then, "Consider it done." I hung up, poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon, stood at the window overlooking the bay, watching the lights flicker on across the water. My son-in-law's father thought he could throw my daughter away like trash. He thought I wouldn't notice. He thought wrong. My daughter didn't know it yet. My son-in-law didn't know it. His father certainly didn't know it. But that cargo company he'd been running for the past 6 years, the one he thought he owned, the one he used to fire my daughter and destroy her career, I'd owned it all along. Through shell companies, through trusts, through layers so deep that even the best forensic accountants would need months to untangle them. I'd let him play boss. Let him think he'd built something. Let him parade around Miami like he was somebody. Because I needed to see what kind of man my daughter had married, what kind of family she'd joined, what kind of people would raise my granddaughter. Turns out I'd seen enough. My son-in-law's father thought he could use my company to humiliate my daughter, thought he could destroy her reputation, thought he could throw her out like garbage and face no consequences. He was about to learn something about consequences. What my security guard would find in the next 48 hours wouldn't just expose fraud. It would expose a pattern, a system, a carefully constructed empire of lies built on my foundation. And I was going to burn it down. I took a sip of bourbon, watched the sun set over the water. My daughter was upstairs, probably crying in the bathtub. My granddaughter was asleep, clutching a stuffed rabbit in a strange bed. But they were safe. They were home. And the men who'd put them on that park bench, they had no idea what was coming. The house was quiet. Upstairs, Sophia slept in the guest suite. Ruby curled beside her, that stuffed rabbit tucked under one small arm. But I sat in my office, the desk lamp casting long shadows across the mahogany, and I let myself remember. 4 years ago, April 2021. Sophia had come to me with that smile, the kind that lit up a room, and told me she was engaged. Adrian Westbrook. Charming, handsome, Harvard Business School. His father ran a logistics company in partnership with mine, or so he thought. I'd smiled, hugged her, said all the right things. Then I made a call. It took Marcus 3 days to build the file on Harrison Westbrook, 3 days to confirm what my instincts already knew. The man was a predator. He'd married into money twice before. Both wives ended up broke. Both families ended up silent. Old money built on stolen foundations. That's when I made my move. I'd owned Coastal Cargo Solutions since 2019, buried under 3 shell companies and a trust held by Apex Logistics International. Harrison thought he ran the company, thought he'd built something with his own 2 hands. He had no idea I held every card. So I offered Sophia a position, Director of Operations at Coastal Cargo. She'd been so proud, thought she'd earned it on her own merit. She had, but I'd also been watching. Testing her, seeing if she had what it took to survive in that world, seeing if Harrison would show their true faces when they thought no one was looking. Turns out, they did. I leaned back in my chair. The clock on the wall read 2:15 in the morning. I should have been exhausted, but my mind was sharp, clear. 4 years. I'd given them 4 years to prove me wrong. They'd proven me right instead. The knock came at 7:30. I'd showered, changed into a charcoal suit, made coffee in the kitchen while Sophia and Ruby still slept. Marcus let himself in through the side entrance, the one he'd used 100 times before, and crossed to my office without a word. He carried a gray folder. I didn't stand, just gestured to the chair across from me. Tell me. Marcus opened the file, slid a police report across the desk. Harrison filed this yesterday afternoon, 3:45 p.m., Miami-Dade County Sheriff's Office. I scanned the document. My hands didn't shake. They never did. Complainant Harrison Westbrook. Accused Sophia Blackwell. Allegation grand theft. Estimated value $320,000. The list went on. Antique coins, sterling silver, jewelry. Items Harrison claimed belonged to the Westbrook family estate. Items Sophia had allegedly stolen over the course of her marriage. Lies. Every single word. This is a felony charge, Marcus said quietly. If it sticks, she's looking at 5 years minimum. I set the report down, looked at him. It won't stick. Vivian, it won't. My voice was steel, because Harrison doesn't know who he's dealing with. Marcus studied me for a long moment, then nodded. What do you need? I stood, walked to the window. The sun was rising over the bay, painting the water in shades of orange and gold. Sophia was upstairs still believing the world was something it wasn't. Ruby was 4 years old and homeless, and Harrison Westbrook thought he could destroy my family with a piece of paper. I turned back to Marcus. Pull every overdraft line Coastal Cargo has, every credit facility, every loan. When today, his eyebrows rose slightly. That'll freeze their operations within 48 hours. Good, I picked up my phone. Harrison wants to play games with the law. Let's see how he plays when he can't make payroll. I dialed the number for my lead counsel, Christine Barrett. She answered on the second ring. "Christine, it's Vivian. I need you at my house in an hour. We have work to do." What Harrison didn't understand, what he'd never understood, was that I didn't just own Coastal Cargo. I owned his entire world, and I was about to take it apart piece by piece. The morning light over Biscayne Bay was sharp and gold when I made the call from my office on the 42nd floor of Four Seasons Tower. I didn't sit behind my desk. I stood at the window watching the city wake and dialed Harold Bridges. Harold had been managing commercial accounts at Coastal Trust for 15 years. We'd done business since back when I was running routes myself, when one late payment could have buried me. He owed me nothing, but he remembered. And that kind of loyalty is priceless in this city. "Harold," I said when he picked up, "I need you to freeze the Coastal Cargo Solutions overdraft facility, effective immediately." There was a pause. Then, "Mrs. Blackwell, that's $1.5 million in active credit." "I'm aware. The payroll's due Friday. Vendor payments are scheduled. If I pull that line, then it gets pulled," I said. "Internal security review. No timeline for resolution." Another pause. Harold wasn't stupid. He knew exactly what I was doing. "Understood," he said quietly. "I'll have it done within the hour." I hung up and pulled up the live feed on my tablet. Marcus had installed cameras in the Coastal Cargo offices 6 months ago, hidden in the smoke detectors, the exit signs, the framed motivational posters my son-in-law's father loved so much. The man thought he was running an empire. He had no idea he was living in a glass house. At 9:45, the first payment rejection hit. I watched him through the camera. He was at his desk phone pressed to his ear face, going red. The vendor on the other end was probably yelling. 3 more calls came in within 10 minutes. Payroll, lease, insurance. At 10:15, he called Harold. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I didn't need to. I saw his face go pale, saw him stand up, pace, slam his hand on the desk. Harold was delivering the script I'd given him. "System error. No estimated resolution time. We'll keep you updated." By 11, the man was sweating through his shirt. I poured myself a cup of coffee and waited. At 3:27 that afternoon, my daughter's phone rang. We were in the guest suite at my house in Coconut Grove. My granddaughter was napping upstairs. Christine Barrett sat beside me, legal pad open pen ready. My daughter stared at the screen. "It's him," she whispered. "Answer it," I said. "Put it on speaker." She did. "Sophia." His voice was tight, controlled, the kind of control that comes right before someone snaps. "What do you want?" My daughter's voice was steadier than I expected. "I want to talk about Ruby." Christine's pen moved across the page. I stayed silent. "My father's willing to drop the charges," he continued. "All of them. The theft, the embezzlement, everything. I didn't steal anything. I know that." His voice softened. The shift was so smooth it made my skin crawl. "But you know how he is. He's angry. He feels betrayed. If you just sign a statement, say you made a mistake, acknowledge you took the money." I didn't. "Sophia." The softness was gone now. "Sign the paper and this goes away. You get your life back. Ruby gets her mother back. If you don't—" He paused. "Let the silence hang. Ruby's going to need stability, a real home, not a guest room at your mother's place. Not with people like your mother." My daughter's hand went to her mouth. Christine's pen stopped. I didn't move. "Are you threatening me?" my daughter whispered. "I'm offering you a way out," he said. "Sign the paper, or Ruby calls someone else Mom." The line went dead. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Christine looked up from her legal pad and her eyes were bright. "Extortion," she said. "Custodial coercion, racial harassment. And we have it on tape." I looked at my daughter. She was shaking. "This is the 3rd time he's threatened you," Christine continued. "3rd documented instance. The court will see a pattern, a predator. And Mrs. Blackwell," she turned to me, "with this recording, with the timeline, with the financial evidence Marcus is gathering, we don't just win custody, we destroy him." I stood and walked to the window. The bay was calm. The sun was setting. Somewhere across the city, my son-in-law thought he'd won. He had no idea I owned the cage he was standing in. And I was about to lock the door. The Perez Art Museum sat like a jewel on Biscayne Bay, all glass and light and modern angles. I donated enough over the years to have my name on a plaque near the entrance. Tonight I wore a simple beige dress and stood in the shadows near the sculpture garden entrance. Invisible. That was the trick. People expected power to announce itself. Designer gowns, diamond necklaces, a commanding presence in the center of the room. I'd learned long ago that real power moved quietly. The pre-auction cocktail reception buzzed with Miami's elite, collectors, philanthropists, business owners who thought they ran this city. Harrison Westbrook stood near the bar, sweat beading at his temples despite the air conditioning. He was smiling too wide, shaking hands, laughing too loud. I watched him work the room, overheard fragments of conversation. Expansion plans, new routes to the Gulf, investing heavily, all lies. The man's credit was frozen. His payroll was bouncing. But here he was performing for an audience that had no idea his empire was crumbling. At 8:45, he checked his watch, glanced toward the back hallway, then excused himself and headed for the service exit. I waited 30 seconds, then followed. The service corridor was dimly lit staff only, leading to the loading docks where trucks delivered artwork for exhibitions. Harrison pushed through the metal door and stepped into the alley behind the museum. I stayed in the doorway, pulled out my phone, started recording. A man emerged from the shadows, tall, thin, wearing a leather jacket despite the Miami heat. Arnold Fletcher. I'd seen his file. Marcus had flagged him 3 months ago. Money laundering. Ties to organized crime networks moving cash through South Florida. Harrison's business partner in the shadows. They stood under a flickering streetlight. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see their lips. Years of reading contracts across boardroom tables had taught me to catch what people thought they were hiding. Fletcher spoke first. I focused on his mouth. 12 trucks. Harrison nodded. 6 a.m. tomorrow. Another nod. Cash only, no paper trail. Harrison wiped his forehead, said something I couldn't catch. Fletcher clapped him on the shoulder, then walked away into the darkness. I took 17 photos, clear shots of both faces, the handshake, the exchange. Harrison stood alone for a moment, staring at his phone. Then he turned back toward the building. I was already gone, out through the loading dock, into my car 3 blocks away. By 11 p.m., I was in my office at home. I dialed a number I hadn't used in 2 years. Chief Daniel Hawkins, Miami-Dade Police Department. We'd served together on a community safety task force after the last hurricane. He was honest, rare in this city. Chief Hawkins. Daniel, it's Vivian Blackwell. Mrs. Blackwell, it's late. Everything all right? I have information about a transaction happening tomorrow morning. 6 a.m., Miami Port, Warehouse 7, 12 trucks. Suspected money laundering operation tied to cargo theft. There was a pause. How reliable is this intelligence? Extremely. I have photographic evidence and a recording. I'll send it to your secure line tonight. What's your involvement in this? I looked out at the dark water beyond my window. Personal interest. The man coordinating the sale has harmed my family. Another pause. Daniel was careful, but he was also a good cop. I'll need 24 hours to coordinate task force units. Federal involvement, if this is what you say it is. You have 12 hours. It happens at dawn. Vivian. 12 hours, Daniel. Unless you want Fletcher and Westbrook gone by sunrise. Silence. Then I'll make it happen. Thank you. I hung up, sent the photos and audio file. Then I poured myself a glass of water and stood at the window. Harrison thought he could steal from me, frame my daughter, threaten my granddaughter. He thought he was untouchable because he wore expensive suits and smiled at charity galas. He was wrong. At dawn on Saturday, Harrison Westbrook would learn that no one could outrun consequences, not even him. I sat in my home office at 6:15 Saturday morning, laptop open on the desk. My head of security had left an hour earlier, body camera clipped to his vest. The police chief had granted him observer status professional courtesy. The live feed came through encrypted, grainy, but clear enough. The port, Warehouse 7. 8 patrol units positioned in a perimeter, 2 unmarked vans, a SWAT team in tactical gear near the entrance. The camera showed the view from behind the command vehicle, waiting. At 6:23, headlights appeared. A black luxury sedan, my son-in-law's father's car. He parked near the warehouse entrance, got out, straightened his jacket, walked inside like he owned the world. 3 minutes later, another vehicle, a gray pickup truck. The money launderer climbed out carrying a briefcase. I leaned forward. The camera shifted as my security guard moved closer. Through the partially open bay door, I could see them shaking hands. The money launderer set the briefcase on a wooden crate, opened it. Cash. Stacks of $100 bills. My son-in-law's father nodded, gestured toward the back of the warehouse where 12 trucks sat in neat rows. The police chief's voice crackled through the feed. "All units, move in!" Everything happened fast. Officers poured through every entrance. Flashlights, weapons drawn, voices shouting commands. "Police, hands up! Get on the ground!" My son-in-law's father froze. His face went white. The money launderer dropped the briefcase and ran straight into 2 officers who tackled him to the concrete. My son-in-law's father raised his hands slowly, already talking, demanding, threatening, shouting about lawyers and important people he knew. An officer spun him around, cuffed his wrists behind his back. "Read him his rights. You have the right to remain silent." But he kept talking, kept demanding. The officer didn't respond, just walked him toward a patrol car. The camera caught it all. The briefcase full of cash, the trucks with fake registration plates, the money launderer with blood on his face. My son-in-law's father in handcuffs still shouting about lawsuits. By 7 a.m., the press cameras had arrived. I watched him get photographed for his booking. Watched them load him into the back of a cruiser. Watched the warehouse fill with federal agents in windbreakers marked DEA and FBI. Then I closed the laptop, poured myself coffee, stood at the window watching the sun rise over the bay. My son-in-law's father had spent 4 years building his house of cards. It took one morning to burn it down. My security guard arrived at my house just before noon. I was reviewing legal documents my attorney had sent over restraining order granted custody hearing scheduled for Monday morning. My daughter and granddaughter were upstairs finally sleeping peacefully. He knocked once and entered my office. He carried a manila folder marked urgent in red ink. "Ma'am, I found something about your son-in-law. He's done this before." I set down my coffee. "Explain." He opened the folder, slid a photograph across the desk. A woman, pretty, dark hair, warm smile. 34 years old, graphic designer, lives in the Arts District downtown. She dated your son-in-law from late 2021 through spring 2022. The same time my son-in-law had been pursuing my daughter. What happened? Same pattern. Your son-in-law promised marriage, moved her into his place. Then the psychological game started, isolating her from friends, controlling her finances, verbal abuse. His jaw tightened. She finally left, filed a police report, but your son-in-law disappeared before it went anywhere. I studied the photograph. This woman looked like my daughter. Same age, same complexion, same hopeful expression in her eyes. My son-in-law had a type. "There's more," my security guard said quietly. "I found a video, spring 2023. She recorded it on her phone. You need to see this." He didn't describe what was on the video. Didn't need to. I could see it in his face. My son-in-law wasn't just a con artist manipulating one woman. He was a predator with a pattern, a system, a script he'd used before, and he'd use it again if we didn't stop him. I closed the folder, looked at my security guard. "I need to see that video, and I need to find this woman." "Already done. She still lives in the same neighborhood. I have her address." I stood. "Set up a meeting. Today, if possible." He nodded. "I'll make the call." He turned to leave. I stopped him. "Thank you. For everything." He met my eyes. We're going to destroy him, aren't we? I picked up the folder, looked at the photograph of another woman my son-in-law had destroyed. Yes, we are. But this time, it wouldn't just be justice for my daughter. It would be justice for every woman he'd ever hurt, and every woman he'd planned to hurt in the future. Sophia sat across from my desk, hands folded in her lap. She looked smaller than she had 2 days ago, quieter. Marcus stood beside me holding a tablet. He'd already shown me the video an hour earlier. Now it was Sophia's turn. I nodded to him. He tapped the screen and set the tablet on the desk between us. "This is from Michelle Carter's doorbell camera," Marcus said gently. "Spring of 2023, 2 months after she left Adrian." Sophia leaned forward. The video started. A front porch. Wynwood neighborhood. Colorful street art visible in the background. The timestamp read April 7th, 2023, 7:18 p.m. Adrian Westbrook appeared on screen. He wore a gray sweater, khaki pants. His hair was perfectly styled. He looked vulnerable, hesitant. He rang the doorbell. Michelle answered. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Her face was guarded. Adrian took a breath. Then he dropped to one knee. "Michelle, I'm so sorry." His voice cracked perfectly. "I know I hurt you. I know I said terrible things, but I've been in therapy, real therapy, and I've changed. I see what I did wrong." He looked up at her with wide eyes. "I love you. I never stopped loving you. Please, please forgive me." The silence stretched for 10 seconds. Michelle's expression didn't change. "I forgive you, Adrian." His face lit up. He started to stand. "But you will never be in my life again," she continued. "What you did to me, the manipulation, the control, the way you made me doubt my own mind, I forgive you because I need to move on, not because you deserve it." She stepped back. "Goodbye, Adrian." She closed the door. Adrian stood on the porch for a moment, staring at the closed door. His shoulders slumped. He turned and walked down the steps toward the street. Then he reached the corner of the house, out of view of the main camera. But Michelle had a second camera, mounted on the side gate. It caught him perfectly. Adrian Westbrook looked back at the closed door and smiled. Not a sad smile, not a disappointed smile. A smirk. Cold. Satisfied. Calculating. Then he walked away, whistling. The video ended. Sophia sat frozen. Her hand had moved to her mouth halfway through. Now she was shaking. Her voice broke. "That's exactly what he said to me. Last November. Word for word." Tears spilled down her cheeks. The therapy line. The "I've changed" speech. Even the way he knelt down. She looked at me. I thought it was real. I thought he meant it." "You weren't supposed to know it was a script," I said quietly. "I'm not crazy." She was crying harder now. "I'm not weak. He had a script. He's done this before. He's probably done it a dozen times." I stood and walked around the desk, knelt beside her chair, took her hands. "You are not crazy. You are not weak. This isn't about anything you did or didn't do." I held her gaze. Adrian Westbrook is a predator. He has a pattern, a system. You were never fighting a husband who made mistakes. You were fighting someone who planned every move. Sophia collapsed against me. I held her while she cried. Marcus quietly left the room, closing the door behind him. After a few minutes, Sophia pulled back, wiped her face. "What do we do now?" I stood. "Now we make sure he never does this to anyone else." I picked up my phone, dialed the number Marcus had given me. It rang twice. "Hello?" A woman's voice, strong, careful. "Michelle Carter." "Yes, who's calling?" "My name is Vivian Blackwell. I'm calling about Adrian Westbrook." There was a long pause. Then, "I've been waiting for this call." The doorbell rang at 5:47. A silver sedan had pulled through the gate 30 minutes after our call. I opened the door myself. She was smaller than I'd expected, dark hair in a ponytail, jeans and a gray sweater. Her eyes were careful. "Ma'am, please come in." I led her to the living room. My daughter sat on the couch, hands twisted in her lap. The woman stopped in the doorway when she saw her. The two women stared at each other. Neither spoke. I watched it happen. The recognition, not of faces, but of something deeper. The way survivors recognize each other. The woman spoke first. "It wasn't your fault." My daughter's eyes filled. "It wasn't yours either." The woman crossed the room. My daughter stood. They held each other, two strangers who understood each other completely. They both cried. I stepped back and gave them space. After a moment, they sat down together on the couch. I poured tea and sat across from them. "Tell me what happened," I said gently. The woman looked at my daughter, then at me. "The same things that happened to her. I met him in late 2021. He was charming. We moved in together after 3 months. That's when it started." "What started?" "The comments. You're too sensitive. You're overreacting. When I got upset, he'd make me apologize for having feelings." She picked up her tea. "Then the isolation. Said my friends didn't understand us, said my mother was controlling. Convinced me to quit my job, said he'd support us." Her voice hardened. 2 months later, he kicked me out with nothing." My daughter spoke quietly. "He told me my family didn't understand us either." The woman nodded. "That you were too emotional. Every day. That he was the only one who really loved you." My daughter closed her eyes. "Yes," I leaned forward. "You said he took money. $45,000, savings, jewelry from my grandmother. He claimed I'd given them to him as gifts. When I filed a police report, he showed forged receipts." Her jaw tightened. "He planned all of it." The office door opened. My attorney entered with her legal pad. I'd texted her 20 minutes ago. "I'm the family attorney. I've been listening. I hope you don't mind." The woman glanced at me. I nodded. "I don't mind." My attorney sat beside me. "If both of you testify about his pattern, the financial manipulation, the psychological abuse, the systematic targeting, we can build a federal case, pattern predation, criminal charges." The woman looked at my daughter, then at me. "What do you need? Your testimony, your documentation, your willingness to face him in court." She didn't hesitate. "I'm in. Let's take him down." They talked for another hour, comparing notes, discovering he'd used identical lines on both of them, the same script, the same tactics. By the time the woman left, they'd exchanged numbers, made plans to meet again. My daughter walked her to the door. "Thank you for coming." "Thank you for calling," the woman said. "I thought I was alone." "You're not. Not anymore." After she drove away, I returned to my office. My security guard had left a large envelope on my desk, the full audit report. I opened it and started reading. What he'd found made my son-in-law's father's truck theft scheme look like petty crime. 12 loans under my daughter's forged signature, $2.1 million, offshore accounts, a scheme to use my company's federal license as collateral for $7 million. They hadn't just stolen from my daughter, they'd tried to steal my entire empire. I closed the folder, stood at the window. 2 women had survived my son-in-law's pattern. 2 women who'd thought they were alone. But they weren't alone anymore. And my son-in-law, his father. They were about to learn what happened when you came from my family. Rain drummed against the windows, steady, relentless. The kind of spring storm that rolled in from the Atlantic and settled over Miami like a blanket. I sat alone in my office. The house was quiet. Sophia and Ruby were asleep upstairs. Marcus had gone home hours ago. The audit report sat on my desk. 300 pages, single-spaced. I'd been reading for 2 hours. I poured myself another bourbon. Turned the page. The first section detailed the loans, 12 of them, all taken out under Sophia's name over the past 18 months. Personal loans, business lines of credit, a mortgage on a property in Coral Gables she'd never seen. Total $2.1 million. Every signature was Sophia's, except they weren't. Marcus had hired a forensic document examiner. The analysis was clear, forged, every single one. Someone had practiced her signature dozens of times, perfected it. then used it to build a financial empire in her name. Harrison. It had to be Harrison. But the next section made me pause. Bank statements from Adrian's personal accounts. Deposits matching the loan amounts. Within 48 hours of each loan approval, Adrian hadn't just helped his father. He'd been the architect. I turned another page. Security footage. Recovered from Sophia's laptop. Files Adrian thought he'd deleted. I clicked play on the video file Marcus had transferred to my computer. The image was shaky, handheld. Adrian's voice came through clearly. The camera showed Sophia sitting on their bed. She was crying, not sobbing. Just tears running down her face while she stared at nothing. Adrian's voice whispered. He wasn't talking to her. He was talking to the camera. Day 89. She apologized for breathing too loud during dinner. Said she didn't mean to disturb me. A pause. Almost there. The video cut off. I sat back, stared at the dark screen. He'd been documenting it. His systematic destruction of my daughter's sense of self, like it was a project, an experiment. I closed the laptop, picked up the bourbon, didn't drink, just held the glass. The rain kept falling. I turned to the final section, the one Marcus had marked urgent in red pen. A loan application, filed 3 weeks ago, $7 million, secured by collateral. The collateral listed Apex Logistics International Transport License, federal authorization for cross-border freight operations between the United States, Mexico, and Canada. The license I'd spent 15 years earning, the foundation of my entire company. Harrison had tried to use it as collateral, had forged documents claiming he had authorization to leverage my assets, had walked into a bank and attempted to borrow $7 million against the license that allowed my company to exist. If the loan had gone through, if the bank had defaulted, the federal government could have seized my license, shut down Apex, destroyed everything I'd built. I stood, walked to the window, watched rain slide down the glass. I'd built Apex Logistics from one truck and a dream. 28 years ago, single mother, no husband, no family money, just determination and a willingness to outwork everyone else in the room. I'd negotiated with men who thought I didn't belong, smiled through meetings where I was the only woman, proved myself 1,000 times over, and Harrison Westbrook thought he could take it. Because my daughter had loved his son, because they'd convinced her she was weak, because they believed I wouldn't notice until it was too late. They forgot something important. I didn't just protect my family, I protected what I built. And I would burn their world to ash before I let them take one brick of my empire. I picked up my phone, scrolled through messages, found the one I needed, an invitation, Spring Charity Gala. April 22nd, the Biltmore Hotel, black tie, Miami's elite gathering to celebrate the city's business leaders. This year's honoree Harrison Westbrook, receiving the Miami Business Leader of the Year award. They'd announced it 3 weeks ago, before the arrest. The event organizers were probably scrambling, wondering if they should rescind the award. I typed a message to the gala chairwoman, someone I'd known for years. Don't cancel Harrison's award. He deserves his moment. I hit send. Then I called Christine Barrett. She answered immediately. Vivian, it's late. The gala, Tuesday night. I want Harrison there. I want Adrian there. I want every camera in Miami pointed at that stage. What are you planning? I watched the rain. Harrison will receive his award. Then the truth will come out. The executive floor of Northern Capital Bank smelled like leather and old money. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Brickell Avenue. I'd been in this office a dozen times over the years. Charles Whitman sat across from me. We'd done business together for 15 years. He was smart enough not to ask unnecessary questions. Charles, I want to buy all of Harrison Westbrook's debt. Everything. Mortgages, car loans, credit lines, personal loans, business obligations, all of it. He didn't blink. That's a substantial portfolio. I know exactly what it is. He pulled up his computer, typed for a moment. Total outstanding debt across all accounts, $4.2 million. What's the discount for a cash purchase today? 15%. Standard for distressed debt. I did the math. $3.57 million, wire transfer. I want the paperwork finalized by noon. Charles studied me. You'll become his sole creditor. That's the point. He nodded slowly. Consider it done. Anything else? Freeze all accounts associated with Harrison Westbrook and Adrian Westbrook, effective immediately. Reason: creditor change, security review, standard procedure. Charles made a note. They won't be able to access any funds until the review is complete. Exactly. I stood. One more thing. The Coral Gables property, the mansion where Harrison lives. I need the land deed records. He pulled up another file, frowned. The house is in Harrison's name, but the land... He looked up. The land is owned by Zenith Development Corporation. I smiled. That's correct. You own Zenith Development? I do. The lease expires in 2 months. But there's an early termination clause for tenant bad faith. I'm activating it. Harrison has 30 days to vacate. Charles leaned back. He's going to fight this. Let him try. I signed the papers, transferred the money. By 11:45, I owned every dollar Harrison Westbrook owed to anyone. He just didn't know it yet. I was back home by 3 p.m. Sophia sat in the living room with Christine. The recording device was already set up on the coffee table. My phone rang at 3:32. Adrian. I nodded to Sophia. She answered on speaker. Her hand was steadier this time. Sophia. Adrian's voice was tight, controlled, but I could hear the desperation underneath. We need to resolve this situation. What situation? Your mother's interference, the restraining order, the custody motion. He paused. I'm willing to negotiate. Negotiate what? Have your mother sign over the Brickell condo, the $3.6 million unit in her name. Transfer it to me. I'll drop the custody suit. You can see Ruby on weekends. Supervised visits. Reasonable terms. Sophia's jaw tightened. And if she doesn't, then I disappear with Ruby, permanently. Your mother might own half of Miami, but women like her never really own anything, do they? Not where it counts. 24 hours, Sophia. That's all you have. The line went dead. Christine clicked off the recorder, looked at me. Extortion, custodial coercion, attempted fraud, third recorded instance of racial harassment. She made notes. We have enough for criminal charges now. I stood, walked to the window. The sun was setting over the bay. He thinks he's winning, I said quietly. He's not, Christine asked. Tomorrow night, Adrian will walk into that gala in a rented tuxedo. He'll smile for cameras, shake hands, stand beside his father while Harrison accepts an award. I turned back to her. He'll think he won, think he broke us, think we're scrambling to give him what he wants. And he'll be wrong, Christine said. He won't just be wrong. I picked up my phone, sent a single text to Marcus. Everything is ready. He'll be walking into a trap he never saw coming. Spring sunlight poured through the windows of my bedroom, the kind of light that made Miami look like paradise. Deceptive, beautiful. I stood in front of the mirror adjusting the black evening gown, floor length, simple cut. No jewelry except the diamond studs Sophia's father had given me 30 years ago, before he left, before I learned that strength didn't come from someone else. The dress felt like armor. My reflection stared back, 63 years old, gray threading through my hair, lines around my eyes that hadn't been there when I started Apex. For a moment, I let myself remember, 28 years old, standing beside a single truck in a rented lot. Sophia was 4, holding my hand, asking why we were there. Mama's starting a company, baby. We're going to build something big. For me, for you. I blinked. The memory faded. The woman in the mirror looked back at me. And I'll protect it for my granddaughter, I said quietly. A knock on the door. Sophia entered. She wore a navy dress, simple, elegant, her hair pulled back. Mom. Her voice was small. What if this doesn't work? I turned from the mirror, crossed to her, took her hands. Sweetheart, I didn't build an empire on hope. I built it on planning, on contracts and leverage and knowing exactly where every piece sits on the board. I squeezed her hands. Tonight isn't a gamble, it's checkmate. She nodded, but her eyes were still uncertain. The doorbell rang downstairs. We walked down together. Marcus had already answered. Michelle Carter stood in the foyer wearing a silver dress that caught the light. She looked different, stronger, like she'd decided something. Sophia crossed to her. They hugged without speaking. "You came," Sophia whispered. "Survivors don't run," Michelle said. "We fight." Marcus cleared his throat. He held a small USB drive. Black. Ordinary. "Everything's on here. Video files, audio recordings, forensic reports, bank statements, the deleted footage from Adrian's laptop, Michelle's police report, Sophia's medical records showing the pattern of psychological stress." He handed it to me. "Copies are already with Christine and Chief Hawkins, but you'll need this for the presentation." I held the drive. So small. So light. "This holds their entire collapse," I said. "Ironic, isn't it, 28 years to build an empire? 4 years for them to steal from it, and 1 USB drive to end them." The 3 of us stood in the foyer. Vivian, Sophia, Michelle, 3 women in evening gowns, warriors dressed for battle. From upstairs, I heard Ruby's voice, singing to herself. The nanny had arrived an hour ago. Ruby was safe, protected, drawing pictures at the kitchen table. She'd shown me before I dressed. A crayon drawing of 3 women in fancy dresses. "That's you and Mama and Miss Michelle. You're going to Grandma's party." I'd kissed her forehead, promised to bring her back a piece of cake. She didn't need to know what was really happening tonight. She just needed to stay innocent a little longer. I checked my watch. 6:30. "It's time," I said. Marcus drove. The 4 of us in his black SUV. The sun was setting as we pulled onto the Biltmore Hotel's circular drive. Valets in white jackets, photographers, Miami's elite arriving in luxury cars. We stepped out. Marcus handed the valet his keys. The Granada ballroom glowed with golden light. Cocktail hour. People were already inside. Champagne, laughter, small talk about business and charity and who was wearing what designer. Harrison would be there, playing the role, accepting congratulations before the award ceremony. Adrian would be beside him, smiling, confident, thinking he'd won. I adjusted my dress, looked at Sophia and Michelle. "Ready?" They both nodded. We walked through the entrance together. 7 p.m. cocktail hour. By 8, when Harrison Westbrook took that stage, nothing would ever be the same. The Granada ballroom glittered like a jewel box. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings painted with gold leaf. 300 guests in evening wear filled round tables draped in white linen. Champagne flutes caught the light. A 12-piece orchestra played Vivaldi softly in the corner. The city's elite, business owners, politicians, philanthropists, everyone who mattered. And my son-in-law's father stood center stage. He wore a perfectly tailored black tuxedo, not a thread out of place, silver cufflinks catching the spotlight. The award, a crystal obelisk engraved with his name, sat on the mahogany podium beside him. He was smiling. That confident smile of a man who believed he'd already won. "I'm deeply honored to receive this recognition," he said into the microphone. His voice carried across the silent room with practiced ease. "I've built my career on 3 principles that have guided me for 40 years: integrity, legacy, and family values." He paused. Let the words sink in. Scattered applause rippled through the crowd. "In this age of shortcuts and quick profits, when so many chase the easy dollar, I've always believed in doing things the right way." Another pause, another smile. "The American way. Building something that lasts, something you can pass to your children with pride." I sat in the back of the ballroom, far from the stage. My daughter on my left, the other woman on my right. The 3 of us in a row. We didn't applaud. He continued warming to his theme. "This award isn't just mine. It belongs to everyone who believes that honest work and strong character still matter in business. I pulled out my phone, typed 3 words to my security guard. Begin. In the control booth at the back of the ballroom, my tech specialist, hired 3 days ago as an audiovisual consultant, had already replaced the venue's regular operator. The hotel staff thought he was part of their team. He wasn't. The overhead lights dimmed. Not completely, just enough that people noticed. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Heads turned. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The large projection screen behind my son-in-law's father, installed specifically for tonight's award presentation, flickered once, twice. He turned, looked at the screen over his shoulder. Confusion crossed his face. He glanced toward the control booth, raised a hand as if to say, "Wait, technical problem." White text appeared against a black background. Bold. Impossible to miss. The truth about this man, the ballroom went completely silent. Video footage began playing. Security camera angle. Grainy but clear. The port. Warehouse 7. Dawn light bleeding through industrial windows. My son-in-law's father shaking hands with the money launderer. A briefcase changing hands. Both men smiling. Audio played through the ballroom speakers. Crystal clear. The money launderer's voice. 12 trucks. Nod on screen. 6 a.m. tomorrow. Another nod. Cash only. No paper trail. The video froze on his face mid-nod, then dissolved into another image. Bank statements. Offshore accounts. Deposits highlighted in red. $3.8 million. Dates and amounts matching perfectly with the truck sales. Someone in the front row gasped audibly. "What the hell?" a man whispered. The screen changed again. Loan documents. My daughter's name. My daughter's signature. 12 different applications from 12 different banks. Total amount $2,100,000. Forensic analysis text overlaid the signatures in bold red letters. All signatures confirmed. Fraudulent. More gasps. Chairs scraping. People leaning forward. My son-in-law's father grabbed the microphone with both hands. "Ladies and gentlemen, there's clearly been some kind of technical error. If we could just..." In the control booth, my tech specialist pressed a single button. His audio cut out, mid-sentence. The microphone went dead in his hands. He tapped it, shook it. Nothing. But the ballroom speakers worked perfectly. The screen kept playing. The evidence kept scrolling. More documents. The attempted $7 million loan. My company's federal transport license listed as collateral. His forged authorization documents. Federal fraud. Identity theft. Embezzlement. The words appeared in stark white letters. Then police footage. Warehouse raid from body camera perspective. Officers swarming. Him in handcuffs being read his rights. His mugshot. Pale. Sweating. Booking number beneath his face. Arrested. Charges: money laundering, cargo theft. Federal fraud, identity theft. The ballroom erupted. Voices rising. Chairs pushing back, cameras flashing from every direction, guests pulling out phones, reporters rushing toward the stage. "Is this real? Oh my God." He stood frozen, the microphone dangling useless in his hand. His face had drained of every drop of color. Sweat beaded at his temples. His eyes darted toward the control booth, looking for help, looking for someone to stop this. Through the tinted glass, he couldn't see who was inside, but I could. My tech specialist sat calmly at the console, headphones on, running the presentation I'd given him 48 hours ago. Every slide, every video, every piece of evidence, timed to the second. I stood slowly, deliberately. My daughter and the other woman stood with me. 300 people turned to look. I held his gaze across that glittering ballroom, cold, unwavering, lethal. The screen behind him changed one final time. This is only the beginning. The crowd was shouting now, security moving. He stood trapped in the spotlight, the Crystal Award mocking him, the evidence scrolling endlessly behind him, his world collapsing in real time. And that was only the first video. If you're still with me at this point, I need to know. Drop a comment below. Tell me, have you ever witnessed someone's world collapse in real time? Because what comes next what happened to Adrian. That's where this story gets personal. But I need to be honest with you, the next part contains some dramatized elements. Some details may be fictionalized for impact. If that's not something you want to hear, you can stop watching now, I'll understand. But if you want to see how a predator's pattern finally gets exposed, stay with me. The screen went black for 3 seconds. Then new text appeared. White letters, stark against the darkness. The pattern. The screen split down the middle. 2 videos, side by side. The left screen showed a front porch, Wynwood neighborhood, colorful street art in the background, date stamp, April 7th, 2023. The right screen showed a different house, Coral Gables, manicured lawn. Date stamp, November 14th, 2024. Both videos began playing simultaneously. On the left, Adrian Westbrook dropped to one knee in front of Michelle Carter. On the right, Adrian Westbrook dropped to one knee in front of Sophia Blackwell. Same posture, same angle, same earnest expression. The audio from both videos played together, creating an eerie echo. Left, Michelle, I'm so sorry. Right, Sophia, I'm so sorry. Left, I know I hurt you, but I've been in therapy. Right, I know I hurt you, but I've been in therapy. Left, real therapy, and I've changed. Right, real therapy, and I've changed. Left, I love you. Please forgive me. Right, I love you. Please forgive me. Word for word, gesture for gesture, the same performance, the same lie. The ballroom had gone from chaos to stunned silence. 300 people watching the screens, watching the identical scripts play out across 2 different women, 2 different years. Oh my God, a woman gasped. He's a predator. The whisper rippled outward. Predator. Serial abuser. Pattern. Monster. Adrian stood near the stage. I watched his face, the color draining, the realization hitting. He looked toward the exit doors. Security guards stepped in front of them. Marcus had positioned them there an hour ago. Michelle Carter stood from her seat in the back. The crowd noticed. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. She walked down the center aisle, slowly, deliberately. The silver dress catching light with each step. People moved aside, creating a path. She climbed the stairs to the stage, faced Adrian directly across 10 feet of polished wood. He took a step back. Michelle, I can explain. She held up one hand. He stopped talking. Michelle turned to face the crowd, took a breath. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly across the silent room. My name is Michelle Carter. In late 2021, I met Adrian Westbrook. He told me he loved me, that I was special, different from anyone he'd ever known. She paused. He moved me into his condo. Then he started isolating me from my family, from my friends. He said they didn't understand us, that they were toxic, that he was the only one who really cared. The crowd was listening, completely silent. He convinced me to quit my job, said he'd take care of everything. Her voice hardened. Then he took $45,000 from me, my savings, jewelry my grandmother left me. When I tried to leave, he said I'd given him everything willingly, that I was crazy. Someone in the audience whispered. Michelle ignored it. He kicked me out in March 2022. I filed a police report. He disappeared before it went anywhere. She pointed at the screen still showing the split video. 1 year later, he came back with this script, this performance, begging for forgiveness, claiming therapy had changed him. She turned, looked at Adrian. I said no, so you found someone else. She looked at Sophia sitting in the back. Her name is Sophia Blackwell, and you did it again. Every word, every gesture, the same pattern. Adrian's mouth opened. Michelle, this is a misunderstanding. These women are enough. I stood, walked to the stage, climbed the stairs, took the microphone from the podium. 300 faces turned toward me. There's no misunderstanding, Adrian. My voice cut through the ballroom like a blade. You're a predator. You have a script, a system. You target women, break them down systematically, then take everything they have. I turned to face the crowd. And predators don't stop. Not on their own. They have to be stopped. I gestured to the screens. What you just witnessed is the pattern of a serial abuser, Adrian Westbrook, and his father Harrison Westbrook enabled him, funded him, protected him, used my daughter's identity to steal millions. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Coastal Cargo Solutions, the company Harrison claimed to build, is actually owned by me. Through Apex Logistics International. Harrison never owned it. He was a tenant, an employee, nothing more. Harrison, still standing frozen at the podium, made a sound. I ignored him. The land under his Coral Gables mansion mine. Owned through Zenith Development Corporation. The lease I'm terminating tomorrow. I paused. His debts, I bought them. Every dollar he owes. As of yesterday afternoon, Harrison Westbrook owns nothing. Not his house, not his company, not even his credit cards. I turned, looked at Adrian. And you thought you could threaten my daughter, extort her, use my granddaughter as leverage. You'll have the next 25 years in federal prison to learn what powerlessness actually feels like. Sirens wailed outside, growing louder. The ballroom doors opened. Chief Daniel Hawkins entered. 6 officers behind him, all in uniform. The crowd parted. Cameras flashed. Chief Hawkins walked to the stage, looked at Harrison, then at Adrian. Harrison Westbrook, Adrian Westbrook. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, money laundering, extortion, and pattern predation under federal statute. Officers moved forward. Handcuffs clicked onto Harrison's wrists, then Adrian's. The ballroom erupted, some people gasping, others applauding, most filming on their phones. As the officers led them toward the doors, Adrian looked back at me, his face twisted with rage and desperation. You can't do this. You don't have the right. I have every right. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't need to. I'm protecting my family, something you should understand. They disappeared through the doors. The sirens faded. The ballroom was chaos. Guests talking. Reporters shouting questions. Security trying to manage the crowd. I turned. Sophia and Michelle stood together at the base of the stage. I walked down the stairs, crossed to them. We didn't speak. Didn't need to. The 3 of us held each other. Survivors. Victors. It was over. The courtroom was packed. Press in the gallery. Survivors in the front rows. Federal courthouse, downtown Miami, 2 weeks after the gala that broke across every news channel in the country. I sat between Christine Barrett and Sophia. Michelle sat on Sophia's other side. The 3 of us in a row, just like at the Biltmore. Judge Patricia Morrison entered. We all stood. She sat. We sat. She opened the file in front of her. The United States of America versus Harrison Westbrook and Adrian Westbrook. Her voice was measured, clear. I've reviewed the evidence presented by the prosecution, the testimony from victims, the forensic analysis, the financial records. She looked at Harrison and Adrian, both men in orange jumpsuits, both in handcuffs, both staring at the table. Harrison Westbrook, on charges of money laundering, federal fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. I sentence you to 25 years in federal prison without possibility of parole. Additionally, you are ordered to pay $8.5 million in restitution to your victims. Harrison didn't move, didn't react. Adrian Westbrook. On charges of pattern predation under federal statute extortion, fraud, and identity theft, I sentence you to 25 years in federal prison without possibility of parole. You are ordered to pay $2.8 million in restitution divided equally between Michelle Carter and Sophia Blackwell. Adrian's shoulders slumped. For the first time since his arrest, he looked small. Bailiff removed the defendants. Officers led them away. Neither looked back. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Christine squeezed my hand. We won, she whispered. I squeezed back. They lost. We survived. By noon, I was standing in the lobby of Coastal Cargo Solutions. The company I'd owned in secret for 6 years. The company Harrison had thought was his empire. The receptionist smiled when she saw me. "Mrs. Blackwell, Miss Blackwell is expecting you in the executive office." I took the elevator to the 25th floor. The doors opened to the executive suite. Sophia stood in the center of the office. Her office now. She wore a charcoal suit, hair pulled back. Confident, strong. Employees lined the hallway. When they saw her, they began to applaud. They knew the truth now, knew what Harrison had done, what Adrian had done, knew that Sophia had survived something most people couldn't imagine. She walked through the applause with her head high, into the corner office that had been Harrison's. Betty Simmons, the senior accountant who'd helped Marcus build the evidence, waited inside with a stack of reports. "Everything's on track, Ms. Blackwell," Betty said, handing Sophia the files. "Clean books, legitimate contracts. The federal auditors finished yesterday. We're cleared." Sophia took the reports, sat behind the desk, looked around the office. Then she smiled. Not a big smile, just a quiet one. The smile of someone who'd fought for something and won. "Let's start rebuilding," she said. By mid-afternoon, I was in Wynwood, the arts district. Colorful murals on every building, creative energy in the air. Michelle's new nonprofit occupied a small storefront on Northwest 2nd Avenue. The sign above the door read, "Voice United," in bold letters. Underneath, support for survivors of domestic abuse. Inside the office was modest, donated furniture, volunteers setting up desks. But the walls were covered with resources, hotline numbers, legal aid contacts, shelter information, counseling services. A small crowd had gathered outside for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Local press, community members, other survivors who'd heard about Michelle's work. Michelle stood at the door in a blue dress, holding oversized scissors. Sophia and I stood beside her. "Thank you all for coming," Michelle said. Her voice was steady. Voice United exists because too many people suffer in silence, because abusers rely on isolation, on shame, on victims believing they're alone. She looked at Sophia, then at me. "I'm standing here today because I wasn't alone, and no one else should be either." She cut the ribbon. The crowd applauded. Inside, Sophia approached Michelle, handed her an envelope. Michelle opened it. Her eyes widened. A check, $500,000, from the Blackwell Foundation. "Sophia." Michelle's voice broke. It's a start," Sophia said. "This will help hundreds of women." Michelle's eyes filled with tears. "It will change lives." I stepped forward. "That's the point, Michelle. We don't just survive, we break cycles. We build futures. We make sure the next generation doesn't have to fight the battles we fought." Michelle hugged us both. "Thank you for everything." "Thank you," I said quietly, "for being brave enough to stand up, for helping us stop them." We stayed for an hour, met the volunteers, talked to survivors. Watched Michelle begin the work she was meant to do. As the sun set, I drove back toward Coconut Grove, but I didn't go home. Not yet. I pulled into Bayfront Park, parked near the bench where I'd found Sophia and Ruby 2 weeks ago, a lifetime ago. That evening, I returned to where everything changed. We sat on the same stone bench, the one where I'd found Sophia and Ruby 6 weeks ago. 3 suitcases, tear-stained faces, the look of someone who believed the world had ended. But everything was different now. The late afternoon sun painted the bay in shades of gold and turquoise. Warm breeze carried the smell of salt water. Seagulls wheeled overhead. Ruby ran along the path ahead of us, arms spread wide, chasing the birds and laughing. Pure joy, the kind only children have. Sophia sat beside me. Her posture had changed, shoulders back, head high. She wore jeans and a simple white blouse. No designer labels, no performance, just herself. 6 weeks ago, she said quietly, I sat on this bench and thought my life was over. I took her hand. And now, she watched Ruby spin in circles. Now I know it was just the beginning, a real beginning. Not the lie Adrian sold me. Not the version of myself I thought I needed to be to deserve love. She squeezed my hand. The actual beginning of my life. Ruby ran back to us, breathless and beaming. She held out a small white seashell, perfectly spiral, a crack running through one side. "Grandma, look, isn't it beautiful?" I took the shell, turned it in the light. "Very beautiful, sweetheart." "But it's broken," Ruby said, pointing at the crack. "It is," I agreed. "You know what happened to this shell? Waves crashed against it. Storms tossed it around. It broke, but it survived. It washed up on this shore, and it's more beautiful because of everything it endured." Ruby looked at the shell, then at her mother, like Mommy. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. She nodded. "Yeah, baby, like Mommy." Ruby hugged her, then ran back toward the water. "Mrs. Blackwell." I turned. Michelle Carter walked toward us down the path. We'd planned to meet here. She wore casual clothes, hair loose. She looked lighter, like a weight had lifted. She sat on the bench beside Sophia, the three of us in a row. 4, if you counted Ruby dancing at the water's edge. "How did the first day go?" Sophia asked. Michelle smiled. "I got my first call this afternoon, a woman in Hialeah. She said she saw the news coverage, recognized the pattern in her own marriage. Her husband was doing exactly what Adrian did, isolating her, controlling money, making her doubt herself." "Yeah, what did you do?" I asked. Walked her through filing a restraining order, connected her with a shelter, got her in touch with legal aid. Michelle's voice was steady, strong. "She's safe tonight. That's what matters." "That's what we fought for," I said. "Not revenge. Protection, making sure it stops." Sophia looked at me. "Mom, do you think Adrian will change in prison, I mean? Do you think he'll realize what he did?" I watched the waves for a moment, considered the question. "Sophia, some people never change. They don't have moments of clarity where they suddenly understand the harm they caused. They just run out of people to hurt." I turned to her. "Our job was never to fix Adrian or Harrison. It was to make sure they couldn't hurt anyone else, to protect the next woman, the next family." Michelle nodded. "And to show other women that you can leave, you can fight back, and you can win." "We did win," Sophia said softly. Ruby shrieked with delight as a wave washed over her feet. Sophia and Michelle both stood. "Come on," Sophia said, laughing. "Before she tries to swim to Cuba." They ran toward Ruby, the three of them at the water's edge. Sophia lifting Ruby onto her shoulders, Michelle taking their picture with her phone, all of them laughing. I stayed on the bench, watching. Someone once told me that revenge is a dish best served cold. But this wasn't revenge. This was protection for my daughter, for my granddaughter, for Michelle, for every woman who would call Voice United's hotline in the months and years to come. Harrison and Adrian thought they could destroy us because we're black, because we're women, because they believed their privilege, their wealth, their whiteness, their gender was armor that made them untouchable. They forgot one thing: Blackwell women don't fall. We build, and from the ashes of their cruelty, we built something they could never touch. Freedom. The sun was setting now. Ruby silhouetted against the gold light. Sophia beside her. Michelle taking another photo. 3 generations of survival. 3 women who refused to be broken. I stood, walked down to join them. Ruby saw me coming and ran. I caught her, lifted her up. "Grandma, can we come back tomorrow?" "Anytime you want, sweetheart. Forever." I kissed her forehead. Forever. If there's one thing this grandmother wants you to remember from these grandma stories, it's this: love should never make you small. I'm Vivian Blackwell. What you just heard are real family drama stories that God allowed us to survive so others could learn. Don't be like me. Don't ignore the red flags because someone speaks well or dresses nicely. Don't wait until it's almost too late to protect the ones you love. My lesson to you abusers: don't announce themselves. They charm, they manipulate, they isolate. But God gives us discernment. When someone controls your money, cuts you off from family, or makes you question your own reality, that's not love. That's abuse. These grandma stories aren't fairy tales. These family drama stories happen every day to real people. And grandma stories like mine prove that it's never too late to fight back. If you're living this nightmare right now, hear me. God sees you. God knows your struggle. And God will give you strength to walk away. Check your loved ones' partners. Ask questions. Investigate finances. Don't call it paranoia, call it protection. Like, subscribe, and share these family drama stories to help someone recognize the danger before it's too late. Final note: this content contains dramatized storytelling elements for educational purposes. Some details are fictionalized, but the core lessons about recognizing financial and emotional abuse are real. If this style doesn't suit you, that's okay. Please seek content that better fits your needs. May God protect you and yours. Stay vigilant, stay free.